This review was filmed during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, the works being covered here wouldn't exist. I fully support both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA in their fight for fair treatment and compensation against a system that continually denies them such. While a full boycott has not been called for, SAG-AFTRA has asked that everyone who does media about film and TV refrain from promoting struck content during this time. From what I can tell, based on guidelines released, independent reviews do not constitute promotion of work, but critical assessment of a work of art. Any praise I give to these works should be seen purely as praise for the artists, writers, and actors who created it. If anything, the praise is emphasizing that the writers, actors, and other artists deserve more compensation because they are who make these works possible. Additionally, this video was not made using any studio-provided screeners or material. In addition, this disclaimer was created by fellow YouTube creators Aronach and Jesse Gender. Go follow their channels if you haven't already. Content note: mentions and discussions of the exploitation of child stars specifically on Disney Channel from 2000 to 2009. Have you ever felt betrayed as a former fan when one of your favorite childhood stars comes out and says that they hated what they made when they were kids? And then you have to come to grips with the fact that the art that shaped your childhood was made by exploited children and teens. And then realize that you shouldn't feel that way because they have a right to speak their truth, and that both can be true at the same time, that what they made was created under dubious circumstances, but that also doesn't mean that what they made was meaningless. And in fact, they might have been pressured to publicly disavow their work that they did when they were kids and tweens, as that media tends to not be very validated as real art in the society we live in. And then you decide to make an entire timeline and video dedicated to validating the work that they did when they were literal children because they were actually minors creating work that shaped your childhood. So that's what this video is going to be about. And don't mind me, I'm just going to be looking down at my script on my phone while I make this video because it's a very long one and I don't have a teleprompter, so here we go. So in October of 2013, when Miley was just 21 years old, she went on SNL and gave us an update on how her alter ego, Hannah Montana, was doing. She infamously said she was murdered.
She was murdered.
And this came just 2 years after the titular series, Hannah Montana, ended. Though it seems as though the change from the wholesome Hannah to the provocateur Miley was very short and abrupt, it was actually years in the making, as Miley Cyrus lived a very similar life to her Hannah Montana / Miley Stewart counterpart, in that she was just dying to be her real self. In a more recent 2021 interview, when Miley got to reflect on that period of her life in her later 20s, she said, "Really, Hannah Montana was not a character. That wasn't what the show was about. It was about a normal girl with a freaking wig on. Everything was always in me. The concept of the show, it was me. I've had to really come to terms with that and not be third person about it." In 2021, she penned an open letter to Hannah on her Instagram, which read, "Since the first time I slid those blonde bangs over my forehead in the best attempt to conceal my identity, then slipped into a puke pink terry cloth robe with a bedazzled H&M over the heart, I didn't know then that this was where you would live forever, not just in my heart, but in the hearts of millions of people around the world. Although you are considered to be an alter ego, in reality, there was a time in my life where you held more of my identity in your glove than I did in my bare hands." As Miley became a young adult, she naturally wanted to shed her clean-cut Disney image and was aware of what the public expected of her. Miley said in the same interview, "I never created a character that wasn't me, but I was aware of how people saw me and I kind of played into it a bit." The innocent child star turned Hollywood train wreck was a narrative that Miley decided to go with, and in the end, it worked out well for her. She was even able to laugh off her cultural appropriation that night on SNL. But as she matured and now she's 30, she's come to realize how important of a time her Hannah Montana era was in her life. And she's coming to realize how important it was for her, but also for her fans. And how her killing off Hannah, though what she wanted at the time, was just a response rooted in fear for the future success of her music and career in general. If she didn't paint this picture that wasn't the real, authentic her, if she didn't disavow the phoniness of Disney and agree with the critics that what she was making wasn't real music, would the industry and larger public ever take her seriously? And honestly, I find that to be really sad. As an avid Disney Channel watcher, mainly from 2005 to 2009, I was a huge fan of Miley, the Jonas Brothers, and Demi Lovato in High School Musical. And I remember when Miley killed off Hannah and felt actually a little betrayed. It was as if a close friend had just told me that my childhood wasn't real. It was hard for me to come to grips with the fact that my favorite celebrities on Disney Channel were presenting a reality to me that wasn't real and that actually they weren't happy. Like, I dedicated so much time to these people, all for them to later come out and say that they weren't happy and agree with the larger public that the music that they made that shaped my childhood was fake, corny, and manufactured. And I was aware, like how Miley was, that adults didn't take her seriously, that they looked down on, bubblegum pop and how overproduced it was, and how it was so-called inauthentic. I was aware that even other kids my age saw Disney Channel kids like me as cringe for liking the music and the movies and the media, etc. But it seemed as though that there was like this unspoken agreement between the fans and the artists at the time that even though we knew this facade existed, that it was okay. That even though it was cringe, we could all just enjoy the ride, enjoy the fluff, and be kids together, essentially. But of course, as time went on and as the artists matured and grew out of the Disney phase of their careers and started to speak their truth, as they should, it really felt like a childhood ruined kind of moment. But we need to understand that A, they have a right to speak about their experiences and not be judged, and B, might feel pressured into looking down on this part of their lives because if they don't call it phony and agree with the larger public, then they might look like fools. We have to be understanding of the fact that they probably weren't doing what they wanted to do or making what they wanted to make, so it makes sense as to why they would want to push back against the music, characters, and entertainment we all loved so much. But it is nice now to see Miley acknowledge how important her Hannah era was to her fans, especially since that's what put her on the map. It's nice how she acknowledges that it wasn't all fake, that there was some realness to the work that she and her peers were doing. How even though the music wasn't like the deepest thing in the world, how it actually did help kids feel seen and get through really tough times in their life. The Climb and I Miss You are, in my opinion, some of Miley's best songs. Seeing Demi perform her original Disney songs like now in 2022 and 2023 is honestly awesome to me, because even though that music was seen as just for kids or not real music, it was to me. And honestly, a lot of the bubblegum pop Disney Channel music was so freaking good. The Jonas Brothers songs Sorry, Shelf, Just Friends, just to name a few, aren't just catchy but also really highlight their vocal range. At the end of the day, the kids were singing, they were giving it their all, they were beyond talented and hardworking, and it kind of sucks to realize how they were so belittled and so mocked by the general public that they feel this need to look down at all their hard work that they put in as kids. In the end, I think that both can be true, that they dislike that part of their lives because of how exploited they were as children, but that the work that they produced is also worthy and good, even though for the most part it was industry curated pop. There's a place for fluff and pop music that's just about living it up with your friends and having fun for children and young people that I think gets really underappreciated, especially nowadays when there really is no tween part of kids' lives. It's just kid to teen to adult. Back in the 2000s, there was this special tween phase where you weren't a kid but weren't quite a teenager or young adult. It was a time to be cringe, to watch Disney Channel, and to be awkward. So in this video, I want to talk about Disney Channel from the year 2000 to the year 2009. I want to talk about Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, the Jonas Brothers, and more, and why the art that they created was so important, and how that part of their careers deserved to be taken seriously, especially since they were working as like literal children and teenagers. But before we get into that, first some notes and disclaimers. So to start off, Disney has a huge knack for finding talent even before the 2000s. Ryan Gosling, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and Christina Aguilera all started on the all-new Mickey Mouse Club from 89 to 95. Not to mention Lindsay Lohan, who worked under Disney through her teen years. But please note, as a disclaimer, I'm not going to be able to mention every single movie, actor, TV show, or celebrity. I'm going to miss and gloss over some stuff. Disney had so much going on the Disney Channel, from the Disney Channel Games to the climate change awareness song Send It On. Leave a like and comment if you remember that. That it would take me literal days to cover everything, so I'm just going to talk about notable moments for me. But let me know, again, what your favorite Disney Channel star was, or who your favorite Disney Channel star was, what your favorite movie was down below. I'd love to hear about it. In addition, when I say tween, I mean someone ages 11 to 14. When I say teenager, I mean anyone from 15 to 19. And I'm also focusing exclusively on 2000 to 2009 on Disney Channel, as that was Disney Channel's peak and also super nostalgic for me as a fan. I will touch briefly on the 2010s, but it won't be very in-depth, as that's not the focus of this video. Lastly, I've already made a video about Disney Channel before that I'll put here, discussing representation on Disney Channel, as that's not the focus of this video and we won't be discussing that today. I also made a video about boy bands where I mentioned the Jonas Brothers that I'll also put here, and also a Disney Channel video about puberty that I'll also put up here. As you can tell, I really like talking about the Disney Channel. So to start off the 2000s, I'm going to start with Even Stevens, which aired in June of 2000 and ended in June of 2003. And it culminated with the Even Stevens movie, which aired June 13th, just a few days after the series ended on June 2nd. The lead of the series was Shia LaBeouf, and he starred on the show when he was only 12 years old in the first season. And then he also led the Disney movie Holes, which premiered on April 11, 2003. 2003 was a very big year for him. Nowadays, he's probably best remembered for his I'm Not Famous Anymore paper bag publicity stunt from 2014. But what you may not know is that he's actually awaiting trial for abusing his ex-girlfriend, Talia Debret Barnett, professionally known as FKA Twigs, for sexual battery, assault, and infliction of emotional distress. His trial for abuse against her was set for April of this year, of 2023, but has been delayed to December. In 2020, he was set to actually star in Don't Worry Darling, but he was replaced by Harry Styles in September of 2020. Florence Pugh, the co-lead of the film, expressed being uncomfortable with LaBeouf's behavior. The real breakout star, though, of Even Stevens was Christy Carlson Romano, who played Ren Stevens, Stevens' older sister. She was 16 in 2000 and actually had a theater background. While she was on Even Stevens, she also voiced the character of Kim Possible from 2002 to 2007 and sung the song for the Kim Possible movie, so the drama, which aired in 2005. The song was Could It Be, which is the song that's played when Ron and Kim are falling in love with each other. In 2004, a compilation album of her songs was released entitled Disney's Greatest TV and Film Hits, as they used Christy Carlson Romano to sing a lot of songs from Xenon Z3 to The Princess Diary 2. She's on those soundtracks. But she did get her own single called Dive In, which was released on this album, but she never got her own album, which is interesting because Disney is so into creating pop stars from their actors, but we'll get to that soon. In 2002, a few years earlier, Romano would star alongside Hilary Duff, who was 15 at the time, in the DCOM Cadet Kelly. Cadet Kelly is a movie about a free-spirited girl, Duff, who is required to go to military school and goes head-to-head with the stick-in-the-mud Captain Stone, again played by Romano, and shows that the army can wave rainbow flags too, and shows off Disney's tendency to typecast their child stars. For example, because Romano was known as the strict, uptight older sister to Steven in Even Stevens, that's who she was typecast as because it's easy shorthand that kids will get. I think that's why Romano was never given the Hilary Duff style treatment, even though she has a Broadway background. You know, she was the mean brunette, while Duff was the plucky, clumsy, relatable blonde that just wants everyone to be happy. Typecasting is also a way Disney controls their stars because basically the character they play on TV is what the audience thinks the kids are like in real life. Even though there are, or at least were, children in tabloid magazines like J14 and Tiger Beat that gave us an inside peek into the real Hilary Duff, Miley, or Selena. As kids, we really only got to know them as Lizzie, Hannah Montana / Miley Stewart, and Alex Russo. And that puts a lot of pressure on the kids playing these roles to live up to this fictitious version of themselves. And that's really not fair. I think it was especially hard for Miley, who lived an Inception-style life. As a kid in tween, she was a normal girl, Miley Stewart, on TV, and who had to live a double life as a pop star, Hannah Montana, and in real life, Miley Cyrus was a real girl playing a normal girl, Miley Stewart, and also a pop star, Hannah Montana. It was like living like a Russian nesting doll 6 layers under. In addition, this type of casting also makes the Disney Channel stars role models for kids, whether they want to be or not, whether they can even consent to being role models or not. Disney tries really hard to make these kids spokespeople for the Disney brand. They say that all of these kids align with Disney's values, which include a lot of Christian subtext and purity talk, which we'll get to later. But kids can't really ascribe to these values when they're still working out life for themselves. So that's it for Even Stevens. Let's move on now to Lizzie McGuire, and again, blonde typecasting. So moving on to Hilary Duff, she portrayed the girl next door Lizzie McGuire for 2 seasons, and the series aired from January 12, 2001 and ended February 14th of 2004. Lizzie McGuire centered on the titular character growing up, going through puberty, bullying, and crushes, typical kid stuff that was honestly really important to see as a tween. The Lizzie McGuire movie premiered in theaters in 2003, where, get this, she looks exactly like a famous pop star and even gets to live a double life as one in the movie. This would later, of course, culminate in Hannah Montana. However, unlike Hannah Montana, where the main girl character's 2 best friends get together, Lizzie McGuire continued the trope where the main character and the boy best friend get together, as in the movie Lizzie and Gordo Kiss. There was an interesting shift later in the 2000s, where instead of the main boy and girl friends getting together, the side characters would get together, leaving the main girl character free to date other boys, mainly throughout the series. Kim and Ron get together, Lizzie and Gordo kiss, Raven and Eddie kiss but remain friends. Zoe and Chase, of course, had their on and again, off again thing on Nickelodeon on Zoe 101. But post 2006, we'd see Sam and Freddie getting together on iCarly, and Oliver and Lily getting together on Hannah Montana, leaving Carly and Miley free to date throughout the series without the romantic tension being between the main boy character and the main girl character. I don't know what caused this shift, but it's always been really interesting to me as someone who is a fan of the friends to lovers trope, but that's just me. As for Duff's music career with Disney, her first album was with Hollywood Records, and she released Metamorphosis in 2003 when she was just 16. She did have a prior album to this, though, that came out in 2002, which was called Santa Claus Lane, a Christmas album with Buena Vista, a distribution company within Disney. However, Metamorphosis was the first album with Hollywood Records, and actually Duff was credited with the revival of the label following the release of Metamorphosis. Her song Come Clean was used for the theme song of the MTV series Laguna Beach, and her Sweet 16 song was used as the theme of MTV reality series of the same name. Why Not So Yesterday and of course Come Clean were some of the songs that I remember the most during that time. Duff would later go on her Most Wanted tour and the tickets would sell out in minutes. However, her Lizzie McGuire image was also seen as a burden to her and her staff, again at just 15 and 16 years old. She said in 2003, the drama stuff, I want everyone to know I can do that. And this theme of children not being able to break out into Hollywood because they can't be taken seriously and seen as separate from the personalities they play on TV is extremely common, mainly because it's hard for audiences not to see you as a child anymore, and also because media for kids isn't taken seriously even though it should be. Hilary Duff's second self-titled album was a flop compared to Metamorphosis, though IGN said of the album, at the very moment Hilary Duff is perhaps the reigning queen of bubblegum pop theatrics. In its second week, the album slipped to number 6 with 95,500 copies sold, down 51% over the first week of release. Her album Dignity debuted in 2007, 3 years after Lizzie McGuire, the TV show, ended, and honestly, I don't even remember her album coming out in 2007 because at that point, Miley Cyrus and the Jonas Brothers were in full swing. I think Duff definitely suffered because of her Lizzie McGuire image, and it must have been really hard for her as a young adult to cope with the fact that people liked Lizzie more than Hilary. I feel like a lot of child stars feel conflicted when they see the reception that their character gets versus the attention that they get as actors playing those characters. Today, Duff is focusing on her family as well as taking roles in, smaller things. For example, the How I Met Your Father reboot, but honestly, that was a flop. The main controversy surrounding her was in 2016 when she did a couple's costume with her boyfriend where she dressed up as a pilgrim and he dressed up as a Native American. They both had to publish apologies on their social media. She also had a well-documented feud with fellow Disney star at the time, Lindsay Lohan, as Duff was again typecast as the wholesome blonde, whereas Lohan was seen as the fiery redhead. Disney Channel has this pattern we'll start seeing later on with casting blonde actresses as they're like the quintessential picture of innocence in the US. They even made Miley wear a blonde wig, and I think Lohan even went blonde, but I'm not sure if that was during her time at Disney or not. Duff, Aly AJ, Hannah Montana, Dove Cameron, Sabrina Carpenter, though there are non-blondes and blondes cast as villains, I do still think it's fair to say that Disney Channel and Hollywood in general still has a type for blonde, blue-eyed women being like the face of their brand. To conclude, Hilary Duff never really had, a public meltdown that I'm sure a lot of people expected her to have, despite, again, her public feud with Lindsay Lohan. So now we're moving on to 2003 already with That's So Raven with Raven-Symoné.
So yes, I don't trip over it, I don't correct people, but the correct spelling of my name is pronounced Raven-Symoné, but you can call me Raven-Symoné, I'm not tripping over it.
And the Cheetah Girls. By the time Raven-Symoné was a teen on That's So Raven, she was no stranger to childhood stardom. She was already on The Cosby Show since the 6th season, all the way back in 1989 when she was just 4 years old. Her career on Disney Channel started in 2003 with That's So Raven when she was actually 18, legally an adult, but still a teenager. The show went on for 4 seasons and ended on November 10th, 2007. The show follows Raven Baxter, a psychic who can predict the future, and her friends Eddie and Chelsea get into hijinks because of the aforementioned psychic powers. Raven is also a fashionista and aspiring designer, but also helps her dad at his restaurant. She also has a little brother named Corey, portrayed by Kyle Massey, who would later eventually get his own spin-off show with Madison Pettis and Jason Dolley called Corey in the House. Please like this video if you remember Corey in the House. Raven was and is a great actress. She has great comedic timing. She knew exactly what she was doing on the show. In 2003, The Cheetah Girls came out in August, and, it was an astounding success. The film was directed by Oz Scott and produced by Grammy winner Whitney Houston. It attracted more than 6.5 million viewers opening night, making it, at the time, Disney Channel's most watched movie and highest rated Disney Channel broadcast of 2003. 2003 was like a huge year for Disney Channel. The film soundtrack, The Cheetah Girls, debuted at number 33 on the Billboard Hot 200 and is certified for double platinum for sales of 2 million copies. It was the second best-selling soundtrack of 2004, behind Shrek. The film starred Raven-Symoné, Sabrina Bryan, Adrienne Bailon, and Keely Williams. During casting auditions for the film, the singer Solange Knowles was originally cast but pulled out of the film due to the promotion and release of her debut album, Solo Star. The role was then given to Williams, who, along with Bailon, was originally in the group 3LW. The first Cheetah Girls movie is about a ragtag group of friends, Galleria, Chanel, Aqua, and Doe, who form a musical group called the Cheetah Girls, waiting for their big break in New York City. They book a talent show spot at school, but also a record company approaches them and promises to make them big. The group is then torn on whether to continue with the talent show or to go with this agency, who, though promises a fast track to fame, also wants to change literally everything about them. Nowadays Disney is known for making meta commentary on on their brand, mainly that they're a bad influence for young girls. And though again, that seems to be everywhere nowadays, it was a big theme in the Cheetah Girls movie, which came out 20 years ago. The two lead singles, Cinderella and Girl Power, are about how they're not going to wait for a man to come and rescue them, unlike Cinderella. Of course, presently the discourse has changed around, victim shaming Cinderella. But again, this was the early 2000s, and critiques of Disney princesses mainly revolved around how they didn't do anything. The movie's plot is also a meta-criticism on how big studios mold child stars to make them into cash cows and also make them lip sync, which is a valid critique of Disney, which Disney is aware of, but tells the audience that don't worry, the Cheetah Girls are actually authentic, and of course, by the end of the movie, they come together and don't go with the big recording studio. This kind of meta-commentary is really important for artists to be taken seriously, as authenticity is key. People don't want to be duped. They go to art looking for something real, and Disney assures you that the Cheetah Girls are real, even though they obviously are a curated group of young adults singing Disney-approved music. But I don't think that means that the songs aren't bops, because they are, or that the performers deserve to face criticism for not being real when the music, you're performing is making people happy, especially young girls. And you can look at those kids and look down on them for being brainwashed, or you can just let them be kids and have their bubblegum pop phase in peace. And of course, the kids will grow up and look at the art that they consume more critically, but for what it's worth, I think the Cheetah Girls were really important for kids of color, specifically Latin American and Black kids who were fans of Disney at the time, especially since Disney is a company that doesn't really center, marginalized children that often. So soon after the first soundtrack, plans were underway to turn the Cheetah Girls into a real-life recording group. Symoné, however, decided to focus on solo work, leaving the trio of just Bailon, Brian, and Williams. They did become a real singing group and go on tour, which included Aly and AJ, who we'll get to soon. Raven signed a 2-album contract with Disney, and her first album came out on September 7, 2004, and was named This Is My Time. It's important to note that Raven actually already had 2 albums out. In 1993, she released her debut album, Here's to New Dreams, and her second album, Undeniable, was released in May of 1999. The second Cheetah Girls movie came out on August 25, 2006, and took place in Spain. The plot was that Raven felt as though she didn't fit in the group anymore, and actually this mimicked real life, as Raven didn't feel like she was part of the group since she didn't go on tour or was part of the actual recording group. And she didn't come back for the third movie, which took place in India and debuted on August 22, 2008. On April 29, 2008, a few months before the third Cheetah Girls movie debuted, Raven's fourth self-titled album came out and was her last one with Disney's Hollywood Records. That summer, Raven went on tour. The tour was called Raven-Symoné Live Tour and kicked off in July 2008 and continued through 2009. Raven, with her show over and her 2-album contract fulfilled, left Disney to pursue acting and other ventures. The Cheetah Girls also ended up fizzling out towards the end of the decade because they couldn't keep up with what Disney was pushing out, mainly, again, the Jonas Brothers and Hannah Montana. The artists were also getting a bit old as well as far as demographics went, and the group decided to disband. Raven as an actress has been able to stay in the public eye and keep working. I think she never really had a hard time leaving Disney and pursuing other projects because she was already in her 20s when that transition took place. She wasn't a child anymore. Now she's an activist and actually stars and produces a spin-off show called Raven's Home on Disney+, which is still going on and for which she was nominated for a Daytime Emmy. She even staged a set-wide walkout with the cast and crew of Raven's Home to protest Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which was making its way through the state's legislature before Governor Rick DeSantis signed it into law in late March of this year. So before we close the first half of the Disney decade, we have to talk about Aly and AJ Mashaka, as they sang and performed one of the most famous songs of the era, Potential Breakup Song, and actually were offered starring roles in Hannah Montana. So let's go. In 2004, when Aly was 15 years old and AJ was 13 years old, the duo signed a recording contract with Hollywood Records after an audition in which they performed 6 original acoustic guitar songs they had written in their bedroom sitting on the floor. Aly was then given a starring role at just 15 years old in the show Phil of the Future, which aired from 2004 to 2006, where she played Keely Teslo, best friend to Phil, in which the best friends kiss at the end because of course they do. It's the early 2000s. In 2006, Cowbells premiered, and the sisters play spoiled rich girls who learn, the value of hard work. In a recent tweet, they confided that Gary Marsh, then president and CEO of Disney TV, offered them the roles of Hannah and Lily, but the roles, of course, later went to Cyrus and Emily Osment. Cyrus actually had to re-audition for Hannah Montana because at the time, executives thought that she was too young as she was only 12 years old, and then in the first season she was 13. I think Disney chose to back Aly and AJ because they had this blonde Christian rock pop country thing to them, which was really popular at the time with the likes of Kelly Clarkson, Taylor Swift, the Dixie Chicks, and Lady Antebellum. It seemed as though that's where pop music was headed, a country vibe. Aly and AJ kind of brought that energy to them and Disney wanted in, though they definitely were more rock pop than country, and Disney would later get, their true country pop star with the Cyruses just a few years later. Aly and AJ's album Into the Rush came out on August 16, 2005. The song Rush featured on the DCOM Twitches, starring sister duo Tia and Tamara Mowry, which aired on October 14, 2005. Also, fun fact, Tamara's house, at least the outside, is the same one from Mean Girls. It's Regina's house. Aly and AJ's cover of Do You Believe in Magic was their biggest hit from that album. The song premiered with Aly's DCOM debut in 2005 with the film Now You See It, which is about a magician. Apparently, she had the choice to either do a sequel to that movie or Cowbells, and she chose Cowbells, probably because AJ could also star in it with her. In 2007, their album Insomniatic premiered with hits like Potential Breakup Song and Like Whoa. They actually re-recorded a Potential Breakup Song to make an explicit version in 2020. And honestly, I get it, let's be edgy and sing what we all wanted to sing when we were kids. But it today leaves a bad taste in my mouth, as if the original song wasn't good enough for some reason. Just to end their section, they left Hollywood Records in 2010 and went, from their tween Disney phase to their teen phase by starring in films like Super Sweet 16 the movie and The Lovely Bones. I think it's obvious that Disney Channel, headed by Gary Marsh, was trying to perfect a formula that would later be implemented in the second half of the decade, 2006-2009, with Hannah Montana and, subsequent people. So let's get into it. Part 2, 2006 to 2009. So 2006 was a turning point for the Disney Channel. 2 entertainment juggernauts premiered that year, the first one being High School Musical. High School Musical premiered on January 20th, 2006 and rocked a generation, as well as gave birth to a few careers. HSM became the most commercially successful DCOM ever produced. It warranted a sequel with HSM 2, which honestly is even bigger than the original, and a third movie premiered in theaters. In the US, HSM generated 7.7 million viewers in its premiere broadcast. I'm talking about the first movie, breaking the then record for the highest premiere on the network, which I think was set by the Cheetah Girls, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Internationally, the film also saw considerable success. As of 2019, over 225 million unique viewers were calculated who watched High School Musical. Even though it was loved by kids and tweens, the movie musical did garner negative criticism. Scott Weinberg gave the film a negative review, saying that in December of 2006, HSM was a smolchy little piece of obvious fluff that's directed in truly horrendous fashion and populated by cardboard characters who spit out simplistic platitudes and breathy pop tunes. So like a lot of popular media enjoyed by young people, specifically young girls, it was looked down upon by adults and honestly other kids as not real art, as fake, and the fans were stupid for not realizing that, or even worse, genuinely enjoyed it. How could tweens possibly like a modern retelling of Romeo and Juliet with attractive teens, catchy songs, and messages about following your heart? Ridiculous, right? And even though HSM wasn't high art and liked by the masses, doesn't mean that it wasn't good or not worth the hype. Not all art needs to have some intentional deeper meaning. As long as people can find meaning in it, it's meaningful. So what is High School Musical about? Well, like I said earlier, it's basically a modern high school retelling of Romeo and Juliet, where Romeo is portrayed by Zac Efron, who coincidentally looks almost exactly like a young Leonard Whiting in the 1968 Romeo and Juliet adaptation. He is a basketball star who wants to do musical theater. Gabriella, our Juliet, portrayed by Filipino-American actress Vanessa Hudgens, is a science nerd who wants to do musical theater. The two cross paths at karaoke night on New Year's Eve, fall in love, and then meet again a few weeks later when Gabriella transfers to East High, where Zac Efron's character Troy is the, lead popular jock guy. The two want to break the status quo by, breaking free of their assigned roles as basketball star and nerd, to the dismay of Sharpay and her brother Ryan, who basically own the theater department. The rest of the movie is about smashing stereotypes and showing kids that you can be whoever you want to be. I already talked a lot about High School Musical in my other Disney Channel video, which I'll put here, so I won't get too into the themes of the movie, but I will say that it was really important for Monique Coleman to be the smartest girl in school, as she said so herself. I was the black girl playing the smartest girl in school, which was a very big deal at the time, the actress explained, but apparently she was purposely excluded from the HSM3 press tour. And when it came to promoting the third movie, I wasn't invited on tour. She added that they said something about there not being enough room on the plane and ended up only bringing along Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale, and Corbin Bleu. Lucas Gabriel, who plays Ryan Evans in the trilogy, was also not invited. The heartbreak really hit me very deeply and did cause a bit of depression because it helped me to recognize that I was overly identifying with what I was doing and not who I was. And honestly, this is all really horrible to read about, considering HSM wanted to show racial diversity by casting a Filipino-American actress in the lead role and Monique Coleman to be the smart black girl, the only black girl in the entire, production, by the way. But then when it came time to actually promote the movie, they didn't want her on board because that would alienate the white fans. The same thing happened with Ryan not being allowed to be out, as Ryan, portrayed by Lucas Gabriel, was written as gay. Disney wanted diversity and inclusion points, but only superficially. And that's the criticism that's worth noting, not that kids and tweens like something that was made specifically for them. Another thing about HSM that I personally find really off-putting as an adult is that there's a lot of Christian undertones, and that's because, Disney is a very Christian company. Even if it doesn't outwardly say that, the traditional values that they champion, purity, innocence, faith, is in a lot of songs, about believing or keeping the faith. It's all very Christian. The movies were actually filmed in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the location is known to be the Mormon capital of the world, but honestly, it's home to a lot of beautiful landscapes. But that it was filmed in a very religious capital city and state is an odd coincidence to me. In all, High School Musical, the movie is fairly harmless and the songs are genuinely catchy and good. My personal favorite is What I've Been Looking For from the first movie, and like always, the kids were singing their lungs out and even went on an international tour together to promote the work and connect with fans. Ironically enough, though, Zac Efron wasn't singing in the first movie, and it was actually Drew Seeley who was the power behind the voice, and he even attended the concerts and tours as Efron was filming Hairspray. Efron solidified himself as a teen heartthrob post-High School Musical, but it seems now as an adult he has a lot of insecurities, as seen with his plastic surgery makeover. It honestly is so sad to me that people can be so beautiful and be praised as the ideal, but still not find that in themselves. Efron denies that he's had work done, but it's just so obvious. Sadly, his whole case reminds me of the late Ray Liotta, who also felt the need to get plastic surgery that left him looking totally different. Like I said earlier, I talked about Vanessa Hudgens as Gabriela Montez in my other Disney Channel video, so I'm not going to talk about the character here, but I will talk about Hudgens' singing career with Disney. Her first single was Say Okay from the album V, which came out in 2006. The song is catchy like all Disney songs, and she was taking on a more adult or at least edgy teen look as Vanessa in order to create distance between the nerdy and innocent Gabriella. On September 6, 2007, her nude photos were leaked by the press when she was only 19. There was speculation that she'd be dropped from HSM 2, or HSM 3 I should say, as HSM 2 came out in the summer of 2007, but Disney stood by her, quote unquote, and said, "Vanessa has apologized for what was obviously a lapse in judgment. We hope she learned a valuable lesson." Well, they shamed her for it rather than stood by her. The narrative around the photos, to the press at least, was that Vanessa regretted taking them, rather than the people who leaked them are creeps and perverts. Through 2009 to 2011, leaked photos of Hudgens were plastered across the internet, and she actually had to sue the website Mo Jackson for posting and hosting the images of her. Of course, this didn't jive with Disney's pure and innocent values or with Hudgens' sweet character of Gabriella. Disney doesn't leave space for their young employees to be real teens because to them and the larger society, kids must remain innocent and pure until they're married. There's the whole Christian values thing again. And this always backfires because teens are gonna be teens, but Disney never seems to learn. Rather than embracing this aspect of teendom, they ignore it and try to cover it up, and it's just really frustrating. But at least they didn't just, totally abandon her. Vanessa's next single, Sneaker Night, came out in 2008 and was from the album Identified. Post-Disney, Vanessa seems to be doing fine and was able to distance herself from, her Disney image, and now finds herself in more pressing controversies like saying, people are going to die from the plague anyway, so might as well have Coachella, right? Ashley Tisdale was already a Disney Channel personality before she starred as everyone's favorite villain in the High School Musical franchise. From 2005 to 2008 for 3 seasons, she was the blonde brainiac Maddie on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, starring the Sprouse twins as well as Brenda Song, who plays the clueless heiress London Tipton. As a side note, Brenda Song got her own Disney Channel movie, Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior, in 2006, which I talked about at length in my other Disney Channel video, but I will say that she never got a singing contract with Disney, mainly because she can't sing, which is an actual plot point in the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody series and universe. Brenda Song also starred in Stuck in the Suburbs alongside Danielle Panabaker, which aired on July 16, 2004, a year before Sweet Life would come out. As for Tisdale, she would later go on to produce 2 albums with Warner Brothers, not Disney, one in 2007 entitled Headstrong and one in 2009 called Guilty Pleasure. I honestly never really listened to them, but her songs at Sharpay were always really good, especially of course Fabulous from HSM2, and HSM2 also had a Miley Easter egg in the end. I remember they really hyped this up all over Disney Channel. Whenever there was a crossover, Disney Channel made sure you knew about it. So both Ashley and Vanessa had their real selves make music apart from their stage HSM selves, similar to how Hannah and Miley would be advertised as 2 different people. But honestly, at least to me, I always preferred their in-character music in the movies rather than their authentic, real music. Corbin Bleu would later get his own DCOM in 2007 called Jump In, which co-starred Keke Palmer, who was another child star at the time, and she had her own show on Nickelodeon called True Jackson VP. Jump In was honestly such a good movie and actually got me and my friends into jump roping. Nowadays, HSM lives on in memes as its campiness and sets are just so funny, both in and out of context. The one where Troy's dancing to Bet on It with no music is my personal favorite, but there's also the meme where Corbin is wearing 3 wristwatches at once, the T as in Troy meme, the I don't dance sexual tension, and of course images where the fans rightfully point out how they made 2 obviously gay characters painfully straight. Not to mention all of Ashley Tisdale's red carpet looks from that era, which perfectly encapsulate the wildness of early 2000s fashion. High School Musical continues to live on today, not just in memes, but on Disney Plus with the reboot High School Musical, the musical, the series, which I hate saying, and which I also have no interest in ever watching. It did make a star out of Olivia Rodrigo, who I really like as an artist, but these nostalgic reboots just make me roll my eyes. It also feels like the nostalgia cycle for these things are really short, I'm not even 30 yet, calm down. HSM will always hold a special place in my heart, and that's where I think the entire franchise should stay. So on to the next big one, Hannah Montana 2006. So that same year, in 2006, Hannah Montana premiered on March 24th, with the series being given 4 seasons and ending in 2011. What did I say about 2006 being a watershed year for Disney? What happened with Hannah Montana would later start a 3-year streak for Disney, and children and tween entertainment would remain unmatched to this day. So I already talked a lot about Miley Cyrus in this video, but like I said earlier, she was 13 in the first season, and her dad, Billy Ray Cyrus, would play her TV dad as well. And her TV dad also had like a backstory, like a very similar backstory to the real life actor. He was like a one-hit wonder and already kind of in the business, etc. I think his like big break was like Honky Tonk something like that. Miley Stewart / Hannah Montana was what Disney was trying to perfect all these years prior to 2006 with the likes of Hilary Duff and Aly and AJ. With Miley and Hannah, they were able to get 2 performers in one without them being twins or siblings, and also cash in on the country pop era that was being brought to the mainstream during this time as well. In addition to this fad being lucrative, white country music meshed perfectly with Disney's traditional Christian beliefs, as Christian and country music tend to revolve around the themes of family, faith, innocence, and overall conservativeness. The series starred the Cyrus daughter and father duo, along with Jason Earls as Miley's brother, who was like in his 30s at the time, playing like I think an 18-year-old, as well as Moises Arias as Rico, Mitchell Musso as Ollie, and Lily portrayed by Emily Osment. During season 1 of Hannah Montana, there was also a crossover episode called That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, which aired July 28, 2006. Again, 2006 was Disney Channel's magical year. The episode was a mashup of everyone's favorite Disney Channel shows and stars getting together, and hijinks ensue.
For the first time ever, for one night only, your favorite Disney Channel stars are guest starring in each other's shows, back to back to back. It's the can't-miss event, That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana.
Raven Baxter, that's me.
I'm Cody, and this is Zach. I'm Maddie. Hey, Maddie. You're Hannah Montana. I'm Raven. Actually, he's Juan, and I'm Camille. Friday, July 28th.
It was a great vehicle for Cyrus, as her show and character was the newest one on the channel, and advertising her along with other established actors helped spread the word. In the Hannah Montana series, Miley's mom is deceased, but Brooke Shields portrays her whenever the mom needs to appear. And in the end, though Miley's a country star nepo baby, she gained artistic credit in her own right. She was only 13 and acting, singing, and dancing. She was performing for sold-out crowds across the country. The Hannah Montana soundtrack came out on October 24, 2006, with her second album with Disney, Hannah Montana 2, Meet Miley Cyrus, coming out in the summer of 2007. She then, at 15 years old, headlined the Best of Both Worlds tour, which lasted from October 2007 to March of 2008. The kids were working. The songs of this era were country pop and about simple themes: Nobody's Perfect, I Got Nerve, GNO, and of course, We Got the Party, featuring the Jonas Brothers, which debuted on August 17, 2007, in a crossover episode of Hannah Montana. They focus on having fun with friends, being a tween, and just having fun. And it was really genius marketing of Disney in that the songs that Miley and Hannah would sing each week in each episode would give us a preview to the album, basically freely advertising it, as well as their other acts like the Jonas Brothers. By making the series about making music and knowing where the music narratively fit within the series, and therefore the real authentic life of Miley and Hannah, it made the audience feel that much more connected to the art and to the artist. Disney basically blurred the lines with reality in the universe of Hannah Montana the series, where Hannah / Miley, and therefore the fans, meet the real-life Jonas Brothers for the first time, and also meet acts like Selena Gomez, named Michaela in the series, who was introduced as Montana's rival, and who in the real life would later star in her own Disney Channel show. It was a way for Disney to keep the fans engaged and on edge with this curated drama, which then in turn made fans eager to know about the real lives of these stars, not just the presented real lives of the characters on TV, who also had double lives. Again, very Inception-y and honestly very psychologically taxing on the actors, especially Miley, who had to play a real version of herself on TV, as well as a celebrity version, even though she, as a person, Miley Cyrus, is a real person and also a celebrity. Miley and the Jonas Brothers would later go on tour, the Best of Both Worlds tour that I mentioned before, and Nick and Miley would date for a while. It was common for Disney Channel stars to date their co-stars. For example, Zach and Vanessa Hudgens dated in real life when filming HSM. Disney decided to record and produce a film version of the concert and release it as a movie entitled Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus Best of Both Worlds Concert, which only cost $7 million to make, but made $70 million. During the 2000s and early 2010s, it was common to make movies from concerts. Justin Bieber had his Never Say Never movie. There was Michael Jackson's This Is It, One Direction's This Is Us, and later the Jonas Brothers 3D concert experience. And honestly, I'm so happy as a kid that they made these movies because it made the concerts more accessible, because I could never see them live. And it was just such a great alternative. I know it could be seen as a cynical cash grab, and I'm sure that is the intention, but it also made seeing the concert again more accessible. 2008 went on to be a tumultuous year for Miley as far as her public persona and safety were concerned. In April of 2008, several pictures of Cyrus in her underwear and swimsuit were leaked online by a teenager who hacked her Gmail account. Josh Hawley, 19, told Threat Level last October that he obtained access to Cyrus's Gmail account and stole personal photos from it, which he posted on the web. Cyrus was only 15 at the time. On April 28th, the same month, Miley graced the cover of Vanity Fair and gave an interview with Bruce Handy, which he titled Miley Knows Best. The tagline reads, "Between sold-out concerts, multi-platinum records, and a hit TV series, Hannah Montana star Miley Cyrus has some serious business riding on her 15-year-old shoulders, not to mention paparazzi on her tail and tabloid editors praying for her to pull a Britney." So how did she get so relatively normal? Bruce Handy journeys to deepest Toluca Lake to find out. The article itself is pretty standard and concludes with Cyrus saying that she wants to carve her own niche in the industry. When asked whose career track she'd like to emulate, she responded with, "Before I'd say like Hilary Duff, the star of Disney's Lizzie McGuire, or this person or that person, but there can't be 1,000 Hilary Duffs, then that doesn't make Hilary special, and there can't be 1,000 Miley Cyruses, or that doesn't make me special. That's what a star is. They're different. A celebrity is different. So no, mostly I want to make my own path." In Cyrus's case, there has been a concerned effort on the commodity side to slowly draw her out from under Hannah's shadow. A full Miley album will be released this summer, and a Hannah Montana feature film to be shot in Nashville will mostly put focus on the Miley side of life, as she puts it. But what really got people talking wasn't that Miley would be worth $1 billion by the time she turned 18, but the photos taken by photographer Annie Leibovitz. The main cover photo showed Cyrus with a blanket or sheet over her chest and a bare back with a full face of makeup. In the behind-the-scenes photos, we can see that she was dressed, but with the way the image is cropped, you wouldn't know that. Other photos included her with her dad, and behind-the-scenes photos and stills are honestly questionable, not because Miley should be shamed like she was at the time, but that the adults around her let all of this happen. But honestly, I think it was a pretty calculated cover photo and spread used to get people talking. It was meant to be provocative, but rather than just owning up to that, Leibovitz insisted that it's just a classic portrait, it's artistic. Like, I think we can just all see it for what it is. A photo of a 15-year-old and her father made to spark controversy, and that it did. In the interview, Miley even said that she was persuaded to do the photo shoot because she said she felt like she couldn't say no to Leibovitz. And you can't say no to Annie, she's so cute. She gets this puppy dog look and you're like, okay. At the time, Miley was pressured to apologize for these photos, even though it's the adults who should be apologizing for putting her through this. Not that the pictures scarred her or anything, but who put her through this unnecessary scandal to line their pockets. Cyrus said at the time, "I took part in a photo shoot that was supposed to be artistic, and now seeing the photographs and reading the story, I feel embarrassed. Most of all," she says, "I have let myself down. I will learn from my mistakes and trust my support team, my family, and my faith will guide me through my life's journey. I never intended any of this to happen, and I apologize to my fans who I care so deeply about." A decade later, she rescinded this apology, saying, "When this photo was taken, my little sister was on set. She was actually sitting with Annie Leibovitz taking photos too, and there was nothing sexualized about this on set. It was everyone else's poisonous thoughts and minds that ended up turning this into something that it wasn't meant to be, so actually I shouldn't be ashamed, they should be." And Miley is right that she shouldn't be ashamed, but in my opinion, the photos are obviously supposed to at least be a little risque and again spark controversy. Even as a kid who was 12 years old at the time, I knew that this was kind of weird and never looked at Annie Leibovitz the same way again. I know everyone thinks that she's like this artistic genius, but after what she put Miley through, I just can't help but question her intentions. I think what happened to Miley was really awful, having photos leaked at 15 and then a needless scandal all orchestrated by the adults in the room is messed up. But I think what happened to Miley and how people reacted does highlight a weird hang-up we as a society, at least in the US, have with tweens and teens exploring their sexuality and maturing bodies. We feel the need to paint young people as 100% innocent, and Disney agrees and perpetuates this myth that young people are 100% innocent. But the tween and teen years are messy. You're at an age where you want to experiment with your look and your sexuality, and that's okay. But young people are told to constantly repress that with abstinence and faith talk, again, perpetuated by Disney. I think that this is because there's this fear that if we don't paint young people as perfect victims and innocent, they can't be perfect victims anymore, and risk the justice system and public at large not believing tween and teenage victims when they do come out and talk about sexual abuse. But in actuality, the world isn't black and white. Both can be true. Tweens and teens can still be seen as innocent and young, while also acknowledging that they're growing into adults who engage in risky behavior. We don't need to act as though one day you're an innocent kid and the next day you're a demon. There's this in-between stage that we should acknowledge and try to help young people through, but instead we shame them for ever coming forward about bad experiences, but also about good experiences. I again get this fear that if we acknowledge that tweens and teens are at a point where they start to explore this side of themselves, that it might make it harder to fight for victims of abuse if we don't paint them as 100% innocent. But also doing that does tend to do more harm than good because it puts too much pressure on kids to remain perfect when they're not. And then it makes it even harder for them to come out when something bad does happen, because then they're immediately painted as a bad kid, a problem child, when they're still the same kid, they're just growing up. And unfortunately, Miley's story as a tween and teen was a very public example of that. That July breakout, Miley Cyrus's album Sans Hannah came out with the lead single 7 Things, which was about her breakup with Nick Jonas. Full Circle was also said to be written about him and co-written by Miley, illustrating how the music she made wasn't all inauthentic like Disney pop music is usually seen. And 7 Things was honestly such a great song and still is. The next year, in June 2009, the much-awaited Hannah Montana movie debuted in theaters and featured the best Miley song, The Climb, and also the song Crazier by Taylor Swift. Taylor actually toured with the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato and was featured in their concert movie, which came out in February of 2009, a few months prior to Miley's movie. The Hannah Montana movie revolved around Miley coming out as Hannah to her hometown and embracing who she is. 2009 also gave birth to one of Cyrus's most beloved songs, Party in the USA, which debuted when she was just 17 years old. Her last album with Hollywood Records was called Can't Be Tamed and debuted in 2010 with lead singles Can't Be Tamed and Who Owns My Heart. Hannah Montana the series would end the following year in 2011, and in 2013 Cyrus would come out with Bangers, which totally revamped her image. Nowadays, Cyrus has embraced her country sound and has also come out as gender fluid as well as pansexual. She has a charity called the Happy Hippie Foundation, which focuses on aiding homeless LGBTQ+ youth. Honestly, I don't really follow Miley's adult career, but as a kid, she shaped my childhood. I loved her music, I loved her show, went to all her movies, and even defended the racist Asian photo in middle school. As an adult, I don't really relate to her that much and kind of look back and cringe on that time in my life that I was so obsessed with her that I even defended, her anti-Asian racism. In 2019, she did make a public apology about her comments on hip-hop culture after she literally profited off of cultural appropriation in order to make her comeback. But yeah, her as an adult, not really interested. So the Jonas Brothers consisted of Kevin, the oldest brother, Joe, the middle brother, and Nick, the youngest. When their first album, It's About Time, made with Columbia Records, came out in August of 2006, they were 17, 15, and 12, respectively. The hit singles from that album were Mandy and 6 Minutes, which honestly still are really catchy songs. I was 10 and 11 when their first album came out and actually grew up in New Jersey, which is their home state. One of my classmates was actually even friends with them and gave us their EP. But being a kid, I was uninterested in boy bands and preferred listening to the Yu-Gi-Oh soundtrack. Fast forward 1 year later, and once I entered middle school, I was deep in my Disney Channel tween phase, where Miley and the Jonas Brothers became my life. Be prepared to cringe. So every day when I got home from school, I went on Yahoo News and searched for the Jonas Brothers and read tons of news articles on them when they were coming up. And I even compiled like all of these articles in a Word document as if I was some like Jonas Brother historian. I had a YouTube fan account dedicated to them when I was a tween with the username like Joe Bro Lover. It was something like that. And Kevin was my background when you could still have, wallpaper on your YouTube channel profile. I would send them like daily comments on their YouTube page when that was still a thing. That's how old I am. And participate in YouTube bulletin boards where fans would gather and talk about the latest Joe Bro gossip. Does anyone else remember YouTube bulletin boards? They even had a voicemail number where you could leave like fan mails, which I also would leave. I also had like a physical collection of tween magazines. I was a Jonas Brother historian, so I kept at least 3 full expandable folders of articles about them. It wasn't just posters on my wall or playlists on my iPod Shuffle. And I think what really made me like them, besides, the music and them being from New Jersey, was that they were really accessible online. They would always be posting YouTube videos like Day in the Life and documenting their lives on tour and recording funny moments. Does anyone else remember that Bounce video? It was more intimate of a medium than TV. Through the internet, we got to know the real them away from Disney. Well, at least that's how it felt. Though their careers began in 2006, with Nick actually starring on Broadway when he was younger, it wasn't until 2007 that Disney took them under their wing, and their first self-titled album with Hollywood Records was released August 7th of that year. I think Disney partnered with the Jonas Brothers not only because they were talented, hardworking kids, but also because they had this religious angle to them, as their dad was a pastor and thus seemingly aligned themselves with Disney's wholesome Christian values. This was the same reason Disney took Aly and AJ under their wing, and later the Cyruses, because they were wholesome Christian boys. Maybe they'd be less trouble. But what Disney failed to realize is that just because you're a Christian doesn't automatically make you an angel, especially if you're a tween and teen pushing boundaries and taking risks, which is all a normal part of growing up. Christianity doesn't negate adolescence. Also, Christian teachings and values are subjective. What Disney thinks Christianity is different from how Miley would interpret it, is different than how the Jonas Brothers interpret it, etc. The Jonas Brothers, as would later come out, did smoke pot with Miley and Demi, did drink, and were sexually active despite their purity pledge. And actually, Miley, Demi, and Selena, along with the Jonas Brothers, all wore and had purity rings and made these pledges. It was all very weird. Miley talked about her purity ring in 2008 and said, "I think of myself as the girl no one can get, that no one can keep in their hand." Even at my age, Miley was 16 at the time, a lot of girls are starting to fall, and I think if staying a virgin is a commitment girls make, that's great. But in 2012, she got candid with The Sun about her first time. I think sex does change you as a person a little bit because you start thinking maybe that's what guys want from you. It's a big part of growing up because it opens a whole new connection and heartbreak. Joe wrote in his first-person Vulture article, Joe Jonas, My Life as a Jonas Brother, "Back then, we explained that we had made these promises to ourselves when we were younger. A few months later, it comes out that we're in some cult and that we're these little staged Mickey Mouse kids. People were coming up to us and saying, 'Thank you so much. I'm waiting because you guys are too.' And we just thought, no, that's not what we're about." Nick said, "I came from an incredibly religious home. Growing up, my dad was a pastor, and much like the first family or people in the public eye, we were highly scrutinized as a family within the church. There was a person in the church who at one point demanded that all the kids in the youth group put these purity rings on and make this commitment. So without a full understanding of what we were stepping into, we all made this commitment. But as you do, you grow up, you live life, you gain some world perspective, and you develop your own views and opinions as it relates to faith, as it relates to sex, and everything that falls under the bounds of what your parents teach you and what comes from religion, and you get to make your own choices." So I started making my own choices. I fell in love with somebody, made the choice to have sex with them, and from that point on, it was about me being a man and being okay with my choices. And then it related to my art and people's view of me and the public eye. I think for the boys of Disney Channel, them having sex was a lesser deal than the girls, who are more expected to be sexually pure. than men and boys are. But because of the Jonas Brothers' roots in the church, I'm sure they got a lot of scrutiny from their own community. In August of 2007, like I mentioned before, the Jonas Brothers made a cameo on Hannah Montana, and they sang "We Got the Party Together." Later that year, the Jonas Brothers performed at the American Music Awards, where Joe fell on broken glass and cut his hand during their song SOS, which ironically had the lines, "Walking on broken glass, better believe I've bled." I'm guessing that's why they had glass in their act, but Joe's hand was cut and bleeding on stage, but he continued to perform anyway. Like I said, the kids were singing. The Jonas Brothers toured with Miley in 2008, and their DCOM Camp Rock starring up-and-coming Disney Channel star Demi Lovato would be released that June. Honestly, in my opinion, Camp Rock was really lame, and it was supposed to be the successor of HSM, but fell really flat. The sequel was even worse, but at least we got memes out of it. I will say that Play My Music by the Jonas Brothers and This Is Me by Demi Lovato and Introducing Me by Nick Jonas are all pretty good though. Allison Stoner, another Disney Channel actor, co-starred in the films, and of course, they are a star in their own right as the little kid in Missy Elliott's Work It video. Stoner also appeared in Disney's segment Mike's Super Short Show, Please Comment If You Remember That, which was an in-house advertisement for Disney that played during the commercial breaks. They would mainly talk about Disney news, and this wasn't the only in-house news segment / advertising on the channel. There was also Disney 365 and Disney 411. They would advertise the Disney parks and give us news about the company. But in short, Stoner does actively talk about being in the what they call the toddler to train wreck industrial complex, saying, "Nothing was designed for me to end up normal, stable, alive. The toddler to train wreck pipeline is expertly constructed and bolted in place by censoring the harm happening behind the scenes, manicuring aspirational lifestyles and outcomes, and then watching young lives tragically implode." It's honestly hard nowadays to enjoy old Disney Channel music and shows and movies, knowing what went on behind the scenes, which I think is why I really dislike reboot shows, even though at times the now adult actors turned producers are all for it. I think everyone takes their experiences differently, no one group is a monolith, and it's important to respect and listen to everyone's story. We should really commend the child stars who shaped our own childhoods, because they didn't get to have a regular upbringing and were literally singing their hearts out all in order to pursue their dream, while also being mocked and made fun of. The Jonas Brothers' second album with Disney debuted in 2008 and was dubbed A Little Bit Longer. The title track was written by Nick Jonas about his diabetes, as he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2005, illustrating that not all music the Disney kids sang was inauthentic and actually did have some real heart behind it. But honestly, I find it a bit unfair to expect teen and child musicians to put out deep music, because they're just starting to figure out life for themselves and should mainly be singing about how much fun they're having. Why do we expect them to sing about deep stuff anyway? The Jonas Brothers 3D Concert Experience movie came out in 2009 and starred both Demi Lovato and Taylor Swift, who Joe both dated. Their last album with Hollywood Records also came out that year and cemented the end of Joe Bromania as their main fan base, me, aged out of their music, and we graduated from middle to high school. And it seemed as though the Jonas Brothers had enough of Disney as well, as they also aged out and wanted to be taken seriously as musicians, which is hard to do when art for kids and tweens isn't valued. The Jonas Brothers also starred in their own Disney Channel show, which lasted a meager 2 seasons, called Jonas. Did anyone watch that show? I think that they were supposed to be spies in it. Camp Rock 2 premiered in 2010, which again gave us hilarious memes to look back on, but was extremely forgettable. Overall, I think the Jonas Brothers had an easy time leaving Disney and making a name for themselves as a band and as solo artists, even though at the beginning of the 2010s they had to do some real PR to fully shed their tween bubblegum pop image.
Yo!
So we did briefly mention Selena Gomez when talking about Hannah Montana, as she played Hannah's rival Michaela in a few episodes. Her first appearance was on July 21st, 2007 in the episode I Want You to Want Me to Go to Florida, and her last appearance was in 2008 in the episode We're So Sorry Uncle Earl. On the show, she plays a fedora-wearing, red-streaked hair pop star that's depicted as a little edgier than Hannah. Her top 10 hit in universe is called If Cupid Had a Heart, and in real life, Selena was constantly being compared to Miley, and the fictional TV show stoked the drama with the same type of typecasting we talked about at the beginning of this video when discussing Ren and Lizzie, or Christy, Carlson, Romano, and Hilary Duff. Selena was cast as the anti-Miley, Miley's rival, just like how in real life Selena was seen as the new Miley, which was really shitty considering that they were just kids and already had the media projecting this feud onto them, and also kind of by their own employer. In a 2009 Parade article, Selena was asked, how does she feel about being called the next Miley Cyrus? She answered, I don't get mad about it anymore. It kind of comes with the territory. I know there's never the next. You're just your own person. I'm not here to be the next. I'm just here to be Selena. That's it. And actually, Miley in 2011 would host a contest on her fan site called the Next Miley Cyrus Project, and a future Disney star, Sabrina Carpenter, who won 3rd place when she was just 12 years old, would later star on Disney. So I guess Miley at least kind of embraced this idea that there would be a next one of her, at least in jest, especially as she was called the next Hilary Duff, or at least felt that way in her Vanity Fair interview. In actuality, Selena Gomez came from a totally different background than Cyrus, and though was cast as the selfish, sarcastic Alex in Wizards and the mean girl Michaela, her real-life counterpart was portrayed as soft-spoken and sweet. Her entire off-screen persona seemed to be heavily guarded and curated by her team as they tried to learn from what Cyrus went through. So Selena Gomez is the daughter of a teen mom who worked 3 jobs to support her daughter, unlike Cyrus, who grew up in the industry. Selena ended up being cast alongside Demi and Barney as kids, and they both later ended up on the Disney Channel. Faith in Christianity, of course, played a big part in her childhood, as that seems to be like a prerequisite for Disney, and she, like Miley and the Jonas Brothers, took a purity pledge and sported a purity ring. But like I stated earlier, what Miley went through shaped how Selena molded her public self. For example, when Selena was 16, her mom stated in that same Parade article that she's on constant mole patrol, meaning that Selena couldn't wear tops that would expose a mole on her chest. They basically used the mole as a marker for what would be considered too sexy, basically. She was purposely more conservative than Miley to make sure that she wouldn't be publicly shamed, even though her on-screen characters were a little mean-spirited and far from perfect. Selena making her public persona as different from Miley as possible is completely understandable, as what Miley went through, being shamed by grown adults, was truly awful. Her first appearance on Disney Channel was on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, as Cody's love interest in the episode A Midsummer's Nightmare, which aired in 2006. She then got cast in Wizards of Waverly Place, which is about a Mexican-American family of wizards, where the 3 children are brought up learning about magic, but only 1 child out of the 3 of them can keep their powers as adults. It's honestly pretty cruel. Wizards went on for 4 seasons, the first episode premiering on October 12, 2007, just in time for Halloween, and the last episode airing January 6, 2012. In the meantime, Selena was romantically attached to Nick Jonas and appeared in their Burnin' Up music video, which aired on June 20th, 2008. She also starred in the ABC Family movie Another Cinderella Story, which aired on September 16, 2008, which is a sequel to A Cinderella Story from 2004 starring Hilary Duff. The movie's leading man was Drew Seeley, Efron's singing voice from HSM1, and he was 26 in the movie when she was just 16. In 2009, she starred in the Wizards of Waverly Place, the movie. The film garnered 11.4 million viewers on its premiere night, making it cable's #1 scripted telecast of 2009 and Disney Channel's second most viewed film premiere after High School Musical 2, in which 17.2 million people watched on opening night. 2009 was also the year when Selena Gomez and The Scene started. Their first album was Kiss and Tell, and the tracks Naturally and Falling Down were released as singles. The album got mostly favorable reviews, but being a tween album by a teen girl, it was of course deemed uninspired. Common Sense Media said the album was a typical tween album, giving clean accounts of common tween concerns like falling in love and following your dreams, and later labeled it as uninspired. Sorry, music that caters to tweens doesn't inspire you as an adult critic. A Year Without Rain would follow after this one, and in 2011, When the Sun Goes Down would debut with catchy hits like Love You Like a Love Song, Who Says, and Hit the Lights. This is probably my favorite Selena Gomez album. The Love You Like a Love Song music video is one of my favorites, especially with the allusion to Marie Antoinette. Stars Dance is her last album with The Scene, and Disney debuted it in 2013 with the hit Come and Get It as the lead single. Gomez was 21 at the time and did come under fire for cultural appropriation, as she wore a bindi during the performances of Come and Get It, and also just like regularly. Honestly, I don't know what she or Disney was thinking. In 2013, Selena said, "The song kind of has that almost Hindu feel, that tribal feel. I kind of wanted to translate that. Plus, I've been learning a lot about my 7 chakras and bindis and stuff. I've learned a lot about the culture, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's fun to incorporate that into the performance. Z100's Elvis Duran replied that he hates people who buy Buddha statues for their houses just to be cool. I don't have a Buddha in my house, Gomez said. She went on, I think it's good to educate yourself if you're fully aware of it. You should have the freedom to enjoy it. So that was her final word on the subject from what I've seen. I haven't seen a formal apology about all of this stuff, but if you know more, let me know down in the comments below. In all, Selena Gomez was able to fully carve out a name for herself as an actress and singer completely separate from Miley, who she was constantly compared to at the beginning of her career. I think it was a lot easier for Gomez to be seen as an artist in her own right compared to the Jonas Brothers or Miley because her on-screen character wasn't a singer or performer. And it was easier for her just to be seen as an actor and singer, a professional, if you will, who had a separate life from her TV persona. I also think her team and Disney as a brand and company learned from Cyrus's so-called mistakes and made sure Selena stayed on the straight and narrow for as long as possible, and I'm sure what happened to Miley scared Selena into not taking the same risks. Also, Selena Gomez is her own person with her own belief system and personality, so of course she's different, and not every decision she's made in her life is based on her peers. In 2015, Gomez confirmed that she had been diagnosed with lupus and that after canceling her tour, she entered rehab to undergo chemotherapy. Because of lupus, in 2017, she underwent a kidney transplant. Nowadays, she stars in the popular show Only Murders in the Building and has turned her celebrity into a brand, like most celebrities and influencers these days. So by the end of the first decade of the millennia, Disney Channel was starting to lose some speed, mainly because their stars were aging out of their tween and teen years and wanted to do different things and be free of Disney's conservative rules. So their last big star from this decade was Demi Lovato, who on August 26, 2007 starred in the short 2 to 5 minute comedy segments as Charlotte in the series As the Bell Rings. The series was a way for Demi to practice comedy, and she would later leave after season 1, which ended on April 19, 2008. That summer, she starred in Camp Rock alongside the Jonas Brothers and later had her own show, Sonny with a Chance, which aired from 2008 to 2011 and lasted a mere 2 seasons. Sonny's premise was that they were all actors and the show would illustrate what happens behind the scenes. The actors wouldn't have a double life per se, but would clearly be different from their sketch comedy so random counterparts. But honestly, to me, the show was really boring and not funny, especially because it was kind of obvious that they were trying to be like All That or The Amanda Show, and Disney thought we won't notice, or that we wouldn't notice, but we did. Where Demi was really allowed to shine was in her music, as her vocals were incredible and still are. Demi toured with the Jonas Brothers from 2008 to 2009 on their Burnin' Up tour, and of course helped make the iconic Bounce YouTube video.
Bounce, just bounce. Let me see that body bounce.
Her first album, Don't Forget, debuted on September 23, 2008 and was so freaking good. The rock sound she brought to Disney was so fresh and so much better in my opinion than Miley's country pop. Her second album came out in 2009 and was entitled Here We Go Again. She would continue to release music with Hollywood Records until 2017. Her last album with them was entitled Tell Me You Love Me. In recent years, she's been open about her child and teen star experience, as well as how it's affected her mental health. She's also been open about addiction and substance abuse, which seem to have begun at her time at Disney. They have come out as gender fluid and pansexual and use the pronouns she, her, as well as they, them. They've come out and talked about their experiences with bulimia, self-harm, bipolar disorder, and sexual assault, and honestly, good for them. Selena, Demi's childhood best friend and Barney co-star, has also been candid about her bipolar disorder. In 2022, she performed her older songs on tour and has released rock versions of her older songs, and they're really, really good. Before I end the Disney decade, I think I should mention that Selena and Demi had a YouTube feud with Miley and Maddie, who was in her 20s at the time, mocking like 16-year-old girls. It was said to be because of Nick Jonas, who Miley dated first, and then later Selena dated him. Selena and Miley did seem to have some sort of drama going on that was similar to what Duff and Lohan were going through. Mila Tequila did an in-depth video on this entire thing if you're interested, but I do remember being really wrapped up in this drama as a fan, and looking back, it was like a turning point for celebrity, tween, and teen drama. Being online and broadcasting yourself and making your own narrative would become the future, taking the power away from the tabloid press. As this video is more about the first decade of the 2000s, I won't be talking much about the 2010s, but I still think it's important to bring up how different the 2010s were compared to the 2000s on Disney Channel. So after Disney's first successful decade of the 2000s, they seemed to really flop in the 2010s. Kids, especially tweens, kids aged 11 to 14, just weren't watching Disney Channel as much. I think with the rise of content on YouTube, Vine, Instagram, and even like Victorious and iCarly, which seem to really speak more to that demographic by making sexual and adult jokes to make tweens feel older, it was just harder for wholesome programming like Disney to compete. YouTube in and of itself was just filled to the brim with wannabe child comedians and also adult comedians appealing to kids who were making totally unfiltered and unregulated content, and that's where tweens were getting their entertainment in the 2010s. Fred, Niga Higa, Bo Burnham, Shane Dawson, Miranda Singh, Jenna Marbles, they were the tween stars of the 2010s, and it's just such a mixed bag of people, but most of them just turned out to be really toxic adults who wanted to purposefully curate a child fan base in order to make money and because they were really creepy. But others like Fred and Bo were just teenagers themselves. Fred, whose real name is Lucas Cruikshank, also starred on Nickelodeon. And though a lot of these YouTubers existed in the 2000s, a lot of them became more mainstream towards the 2010s because YouTube became more widely used. The first VidCon, for example, started in 2010. YouTube back in the day was just a lawless land. A lot of the content, for kids and tweens, or that kids and tweens were watching, definitely wasn't okay, but felt really fresh compared to what was on TV, which we all knew was heavily, monitored and regulated. Even things like Potter Puppet Pals, which seemed to be like pretty innocent, was really messed up, like naked Dumbledore. Like, what the fuck was that? But YouTube also made finding child stars more accessible as covers on YouTube by children were everywhere. And Justin Bieber, who I also made a video about, along with Halsey and Sean Kingston, had already been discovered and made famous from the internet, and that's what would continue to happen to this day. And a few future Disney stars of the 2010s would be discovered here too, namely Chloe and Halle through their covers on YouTube, and Sabrina Carpenter through Miley's singing contest, ironically titled The Next Miley Cyrus. But in all, Disney in the 2010s just didn't reach the highs of the 2000s, and that's not necessarily like a failure or anything, just an illustration of how times were changing. To me, it seemed as though they just gave up trying to market to tweens and just directed Disney Channel content towards little kids with shows like Ant Farm, Dog with a Blog, Bizaardvark, Good Luck Charlie, Andy Mack, and Jessie, which all felt very childish and starred like actual children, not teens or tweens. And if there were teens in the show, the teens would be surrounded by little kids. I'd say the breakout star of Disney Channel in the 2010s was definitely Zendaya. She started in the series Shake It Up, which aired from 2010 to 2013 alongside Bella Thorne. Shake It Up actually focused on dancing, but Zendaya also showed off her singing chops with her 2013 self-titled album Zendaya, Replay being the featured single. Zendaya was 17 at the time. In 2014, she starred in the DCOM Zapped, which I just learned about now. I looked up her discography with Disney and Zapped was there, and I never heard about it. By the time she left Disney at 18, she was already moving on to new projects and never really had that Disney label dragging her down, mainly I think because she grew up in an era where her core fan base was able to follow her and see her and relate to her more as a person than as the character she played on Shake It Up or Zapped. Because of social media, it was easier for her to assert her identity outside of tabloids, outside of what Disney wanted her to represent. In addition, she seemed to have a really great team around her and knew what direction she wanted to go in, mainly acting and modeling. She wasn't going to waste her time, producing singing albums. In 2019, Zendaya's co-star Bella Thorne was pressured to release her own nudes as a hacker was threatening to leak them. Thorne was shamed on The View by Whoopi Goldberg, who said that no actor, no matter their age, should take nudes, rather than shaming the creeps who hack and leak and harass the victims. Goldberg said, "If you're famous, I don't care how old you are, you don't take nude photos of yourself. When they're hacking you, they're hacking all of your stuff, whether it's one picture or a million pictures. Once you've taken that picture, it goes into the cloud. It's available to any hacker who wants it." Zendaya reached out, as well as Duff Cameron, another Disney star who we'll talk about soon, in support of Thorne. Thorne, years later, would become very controversial, but honestly her response to all of this was really amazing. She wrote on her Instagram, "Yesterday, as you all know, my shit was hacked for the last 24 hours. I've been threatened with my own nudes. I feel gross. I feel watched. I feel someone has taken something from me that I only wanted one special person to see. He has sent me multiple nude photos of other celebrities. He won't stop with me or them. He'll just keep going. For too long, I let a man take advantage of me over and over, and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm putting this out because it's my decision. Now you don't get to take yet another thing from me. I can sleep tonight better knowing I took my power back. You can't control my life. You never will. Here's the photos he's been threatening me with. In other words, here are my boobies. So here, fuck you. And the last 24 hours, I have been crying instead of celebrating my book while doing my book press. Oh yeah, the FBI will be at your house shortly, so watch your motherfucking back." And I think that really made a difference in how the media treated and how the general public treated nude photo cases. She, Zendaya, Dove, and other celebrities brought up the very fair point that women shouldn't be shamed for privately expressing and exploring their bodies and sexuality, and that they won't be shamed into giving forced apologies like their peers did years earlier when they have nothing to apologize for. Lemonade Mouth garnered 5.7 million viewers on its premiere night, April 15, 2011. It was made as a vehicle for Bridget Mendler, who was starring on Good Luck Charlie, Disney's main sitcom at the time, but Naomi Scott and Haley Kiyoko ended up stealing the show. Both were active in the entertainment scene before Disney, and post-Disney they continued to have their own careers. Naomi Scott notably was Jasmine in the live-action version of Aladdin, and Kiyoko is making innovative and thoughtful music to this day. I just thought I'd mention Lemonade Mouth here because I feel like that was Disney's last attempt at until Descendants at an HSM style franchise that just bombed completely. It still had a large audience and fan base, but it never warranted a sequel or any big fanfare like that. Duff Cameron of the mega franchise Descendants and the series Liv and Maddie, Sabrina Carpenter of Boy Meets World spin-off fame Girl Meets World, and Olivia Rodrigo of reboot series High School Musical, the series, have all also achieved mainstream success as young adults, specifically in music. And all three of them were able to make pretty smooth transitions from Disney to non-Disney projects. Again, I think mainly because of social media, where you can be more accessible to your fans, and therefore you can be taken seriously as an authentic artist and not just cogs in a machine. Not to mention that Disney Channel in the 2010s just weren't pulling the same numbers as they were in the 2000s, so people don't automatically connect these artists to Disney. I think the closest thing the 2010s has to High School Musical is The Descendants, which was a global phenomenon, but I still don't think it was nearly as well known as HSM. Descendants 2 was watched by 11 million people, so it was a big deal, especially for 2017, but a decade earlier, HSM was pulling 17 million views on their first night. Again, not saying it wasn't popular or that it didn't make Dove Cameron a household name, but just that Disney Channel didn't have the monopoly on tween entertainment that it used to have. And honestly, I think it's a good thing that the new Disney Channel and Disney Plus stars, if you will, don't have their time at the company held against them. Cameron has also talked openly about her struggles with body dysmorphia and has come out as queer. In May 2021, she said that she feels queer is the most accurate way to describe her sexuality. I honestly really commend her and other celebrities for coming out and being open about their struggles with mental health and their sexuality, because it's far from easy, but really helps these young people's fan bases know that it's okay to be who you are, and that even people who, are supposedly happy and who are held up as icons of beauty don't actually feel that way, at least not all the time. Carpenter starred in the Girl Meets World reboot, which aired for 3 seasons from 2014 to 2017. In 2016, she starred in the DCOM Adventures in Babysitting, and then left Disney to star on Broadway in Mean Girls as Katie Heron. Rodrigo starred in Bizaardvark from 2016 to 2019 for 3 seasons, and then in High School Musical, the series, for 3 seasons before leaving in 2022 to focus on her music career. Rodrigo has been vocal about her stance on political issues as well as Cameron. In all, I think Disney Channel's shift in focus towards a younger demographic perfectly illustrates how in real life kids nowadays are just supposed to be teens the day they turn 13. There's no more need to try to cater to tweens because they're not watching anyway, as kids aren't supposed to be kids for that long. Whether this is because of the unregulated internet promoting and normalizing adult content for tweens, I don't know, but I do want to say that it definitely helped. And though I think it's a good thing that we're now treating young artists, especially those who come from a Disney Channel background, with a little more respect and seeing their art as authentic and worthwhile, it also scares me how fast kids are expected and pressured to mature. I think in the world we live in today, we expect young people to be advocates for social justice as well as be advocates for themselves, making them grow up faster because they're living in a world that's actively hostile to them and they know that, and I finally started talking back and taking action, specifically against being sexually exploited and shamed, but also about the future of the planet and the world they're inheriting. They unfairly have to forego a carefree tween period because there is no time to waste when the planet is on fire. I applaud them for their hard work, but it also saddens me that it's come to this and that we can't just expect teens and tweens to make carefree music anymore. That's just not what we expect from them. And that sucks. So that's kind of a messy conclusion to this video, but that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. It took me so long to make this video and edit and everything, but I really enjoyed making it. I really enjoy kind of making this more casual content where I can just talk to you guys and just look at my notes and, start rambling, I guess. I hope you guys liked it. And again, let me know what your favorite Disney Channel movie and who your favorite Disney Channel celebrity was down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. All right. Bye.